Hey guys, thanks for joining us, and we're here for another Wine in the Bag. So we've got Webb Simpson as our Players Champion winner at Sawgrass last week. I didn't manage to catch too much of it until I heard Tiger was kind of going a little bit on. I heard how he played good. He played Saturday, was working Saturday, but then managed to tune in for a little bit at the front nine Sunday, and it turned into almost a tournament.
I think I heard that the Golf Channel actually started their broadcast early because he was like on a hot round.
Oh, really?
You know how they do their kind of,
the pregame.
We're reporting, but we'll show you every shot Tiger does. They literally did a full broadcast because he
was playing well.
He was playing good. So.
Well, because it was almost a non-event because Webb had played so well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 59 watch on Friday.
Aside from the dumping in the water on 17, he probably could have done it. He
was right there. I mean, he was 11 under at that point or something, and incredible stuff. So good to see him back. I mean, obviously a few years back he was a bit of a prolific winner on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, US Open winner. And
US Open winner, yeah, absolutely. He played some really good stuff, and while we're diving into his equipment, we may as well just dive in right at the topic as to what kind of hindered his progress in his career. And it was obviously the putter, wasn't it?
It was the putter.
It was the anchor band.
There was a lot of chatter about basically how his career just kind of obviously took a dive.
Yeah.
Many players that were anchoring at that point, same thing happened to them. So apparently he had a putting lesson from, well, probably more casual than a lesson with Tim Clark. And kind of helped him with that sort of claw grip adjustment. Clearly it worked because he made literally everything for 3 days. So that seems to have, with the way he strikes the ball, he's so consistent.
Very consistent.
If he can make putts like that, there's no reason why he can't, be in contention at a major again, like all season.
Yeah, he's kind of a bit more maybe in the Zach Johnson mold of just, hitting good shot after good shot. I mean, this week he drove it. He was 80% or so of fairways hit. He hit 43 out of 56 fairways, I think, on the week. He was number one in fairways hit, last in driver distance.
He was last in driver distance.
In the field.
Because I saw a few where they had the TrackMan and he flew at like 265.
Yeah.
Which, most people are going to look at that and go, wow, that's really short. I mean, he probably hit a bit of a fade on that one, but he's certainly not up there with the guys that, are hitting at 290, 300 in the air.
Well, I saw the stats, and DJ was leading the field for the week on driving distance, and Webb Simpson was fully 33 yards behind him.
That's wild. That's 2 clubs minimum.
That's given up quite a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's probably 3 clubs, 11 yards between irons. That's probably a good 3 clubs, and then he probably doesn't hit his irons as far as DJ.
I was going to say.
So on any given hole, he's probably 4 to 5 clubs shorter than. It's a long golf course, and Sawgrass is obviously, it's one of those golf courses. It's so tough.
It is.
So
we got to land it in just the right spots, and so many tee shots even. Like if you're out of position, the trees block you out, and the par 5s are tough. What's I don't know if it's, I'm probably wrong, but I think it's 9 where they really have to shape it around the corner. He played that hole great. He did. With his distance, he just played a nice little draw around the corner and hit it into the green, but solid stuff.
Yeah, so let's dive into his bag, and he had a bit of an interesting setup. He's been a Titleist guy forever. He's got 12 Titleist clubs in the bag. So he's got his 917 D2 driver. So the larger profile, I think we've got one here, the larger profile D2. A little bit more renowned for guys who are looking for slightly higher MOI, maybe looking to draw it a little bit more. They've always always talked about the D2 profile being more easier to rotate the head, the D3 being a bit more fade biased.
Longer from face to
It is.
back.
It is elongated from front to back, so gives that larger profile looking down on it.
Bit shallower face than the D3?
It's a shade shallower face.
Not much.
Not too much.
I remember the old models, like when they had the 909, which actually had one. I remember that D3 being substantially deeper than the other line.
That's right.
So they haven't. I guess it's the way technology's advanced. They haven't needed that massive difference in face height anymore.
Exactly. So he's using that. And obviously, driving it in the fairway, which is key for him. We talked about Titleist drivers in the past. I mean, not to say that he would be any better with any other product, but Titleist drivers aren't renowned for distance.
No.
They are good drivers, and we done an interesting video on the channel a while back where we saw a Titleist driver can hold its own, not in ball speed, but we were able to optimize the launch and spin to the point where it wasn't giving up any distance.
Exactly.
Right. So
it's a higher spinning head generally.
It is. I find that to be a little bit higher spin. So if I get someone in, one of our great customers was in, and he's very friendly with the guys at TaylorMade. So you get some product from them. This year's M3 and M4 couldn't keep it in the air.
No, I can imagine.
Just everything was knuckleballs. And
I'm the same way.
Fly it down. I put him into the 917 D2, 12 degrees. He's got some speed, but he's kind of your typical low spin driver. Well, slightly shut club face, hits up on it a bunch, so the spin loft is really, really narrow. Yep. So he gets the launch, but he often doesn't get the spin, so his ball kind of goes up and just knuckles down.
Right.
So, putting him into, he texted me yesterday after he played his round, and he said, I'm driving it so straight, so long, and into the wind, it's going for miles.
So you were able to get him enough spin reduction even with that 12-degree head.
Yeah, he actually, by adding spin, he gained 10 yards.
Crazy. So there's not that many people with a decent amount of speed that aren't getting enough spin, would you say? Like, it's generally speaking, you get a fitting, you got to shave a little bit of spin off someone's
You're normally
shaft.
going the other way. Because, predominantly guys are a little bit across it, maybe have a bit of a glancing blow, so there's a little additional loft going on, so you're trying to kill spin, trying to maybe bring it from 3,000 down to 2300, that type of idea. We do a lot of those types of fits. Not that many where we're trying to add spin.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
So he's using that in the head. He's using the Graphite Design IZ dry shaft back to disease.
Do you guys carry those in here?
We have them on the way. They're in our new demo matrix. That's about to be unveiled.
Model?
It's a new model this year. Being played by a bunch of guys. Jordan Spieth put it in the bag.
He did, okay.
Snedeker put it in the bag. There's a few guys. Adam Scott tried it for a little bit, but I think I saw he's moved into something else. Well, he was playing Tensei Orange then. I saw he was back to his 910.
I saw that too.
Did you see that? He was back to his 910.
What's he doing?
Obviously trying to relive former glories, wasn't he?
Did he win the Masters with that thing? Probably did.
I guess he must have. He must have. Just be a driver he was super comfortable with. But, you look at Titleist drivers, and I can see that, 910 was a great driver, 913 was good, 915 was good, 917 is very good.
Yeah.
They're not that much different.
I think
not much has evolved.
The one thing you've said is exactly, like, they may not make drastic differences, but there's always a good subset of players that it fits. Yeah. And you find a good niche for it in your fittings where you see a certain type of player and you say, okay, this is a Titleist opportunity driver-wise.
Definitely.
Quick segue on that IZ, because there was a bunch of questions about the DI range, which is this one.
Yep.
How old of a shaft is this?
Oh, good question. DI would be, I've seen DI out in tour now since...
I feel like it's been like 5-6 years.
Oh, no, more than that.
Oh, it's more?
More than that. I can say I was watching
Tiger
played it. I was watching Ryo Ishikawa hitting that on the range at Loch Lomond at the Scottish Open in probably 2010.
Okay, so we're looking at 8 to 10 years.
8 to 10, yeah, I would say at least 8 years, at least.
So a few questions that I saw were, that one is obviously really good because it's had so much longevity. Is the IZ meant to replace that?
No.
It's not.
No, definitely
it's a different profile.
The DI, interestingly, is still the #1 best-selling shaft in graphite design.
That's exactly what the comment was. Like, DI is really good, and its best-selling. Is the IZ cutting into that, I guess, that market saturation? They're not really.
It's a much stronger profile.
Okay,
so the profile, the EI profile of the graphite design IZ would be a firm butt section, softer midsection, and then a very firm tip section.
Right.
So can you get a little bit of energy from the midsection, so fairly firm. So if you load it a fair bit, and you're kind of quick and you pull on the shaft a little bit, the handle is very important for feel.
Okay.
And then for obviously energy load and transition, the midsection being a bit softer will help you just store a little energy. They actually found in testing that the midsection of the shaft has the most influence in energy creation.
Really?
Most people think it's the tip.
I was just going to say that's what I thought too.
Most people think it's the tip. Most of the testing that I've seen by people who analyse these things have said it's the midsection that has the biggest influence. I mean, so look at Project X and how they developed their load zone. Where was the part they made softer with the micro steps in the middle of the shaft?
Was in the middle.
Was in the middle.
Because I've never heard of a shaft, like, you read all the marketing materials and they always say, stiff butt section, stiff tip section, or whatever combination. I don't remember ever hearing of a shaft with a stiff midsection.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say that usually the midsection is a little softer than the rest of the shaft?
This is great. And this is how it goes. The shaft's split into three, and if you get into basically trying to manipulate 1/3 specifically of that shaft, right? So say you want to manipulate, the Acra FX200, and you want to make it particularly tip soft.
Right.
One of the ways you get the tip to deflect more is by stiffening the next sort of neighboring part of the shaft.
Right.
So if you make this super stiff and make it much more rigid, that is going to, something's got to give, something's got to move, and it will be the weakest part of the shaft that moves. Okay. So basically, if you break that into three kind of butt, mid and tip stiffness, the tip will deflect more as a consequence of the midsection not wanting to flex at all.
So would you say that feature, a stiffer midsection, is like a high launch shaft?
Something that would be complementary of a shaft that would be catered towards somebody
so that would allow the tip section to kind of
it higher.
Cool.
Yeah, create a little bit more energy down at the tip section. So
interesting.
Yeah. So that's so Webb's got the IZ. He uses a 5X, so went a little bit lighter but stayed in the X Flex.
What kind of weight is that?
One. It's always around 58 grams. So whenever you're in the 5 range or the 50 grams, the regulars are normally about 53. The stiff will be about 55, 56, and then the X will be about 58. A little additional material in there.
For a Tour Pro, 58 gram shaft is probably light.
It's quite light.
Yeah. I mean, most guys, would you say 70 is the number?
Yeah, 65 to 75 is your window, for most tour players.
Got lots of questions about shaft weight.
Great.
And I think it's going to be so many questions that I think we should do a whole video on it. Because people are curious, and I think we've done a good job of talking about different shaft profiles.
Yep.
But adding in that variable of weight and maybe getting your opinion on, does the weight have as much of an effect on kind of the profile differences in the shaft? I think that would make a good video.
Sure.
Hopefully you guys can chime in. I saw a lot of comments about it.
Yeah.
Would you say that the weight of the shaft is misunderstood? People just assume that you just keep going heavier and heavier because you need it stiffer kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what I have kind of always assumed.
Yeah.
But there's probably more to it.
A lot more to it. Yeah. I mean, this time of year is always interesting because we are working with the players we've not maybe seen for 6 months. So, if I look at my juniors that I work with, especially the elite ones that are coming, are working through academies, I may have saw them last August, September, and their driver speeds are, 90, 92, 94. So they're kind of borderline regular stiff. In this time of year, like there's a couple I've seen recently who are swinging like 108, 110. They've had a growth spurt. They've been working their speed. They're working their strength, and all of a sudden they've shot through. They've shot through the stiff flex range in towards really needing the X flex range, but their swings and bodies aren't ready to make that transition yet. So to your point about weight, it's not as straightforward as, okay, you're swinging at this speed, you obviously need to go to
this weight.
Project X65, 125 grams. So we have to be very conscious that it's a transition, how we transition the player into that shaft. Sure, that's the goal in several months' time to get them into that, but there's going to have to be steps taken along the way. So, for especially our young juniors, we don't want to compromise their golf swings by giving them too much weight. We don't want to burden their swing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Should we look at the
let's look at that. So we've got 2017 M2. So is that and his putter are the only non-Titleist clubs in the bag. He uses a Mitsubishi Tensei Blue, the Pro Blue, the 70 TX.
Right.
A little bit softer tip section. We've talked about that shaft a lot in the channel.
Justin Thomas was using that in his 3-wood?
JT was using that. He used the 80 in his. He used the 80 TX.
So again, he's gone a little lighter than most, but it makes sense. He's not the fastest.
He's not the fastest. Yep,
exactly. He's quick transition though. So I guess that's the only variable with him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's definitely very he seems a little short and then quick through the swing.
And then that's sometimes, the other part of club fitting as well. Someone's fast in transition rather than being fast sort of overall, it's a different way of loading the shaft. It's a different sort of bend profile required to deal with that tempo. So he's a 5-wood hybrid guy.
Okay.
So he's got a ton of head covers in there.
I was going to say, so that's 4 woods at the tall end of the bag.
That's right, and he obviously, has got his wedges where he needs them, and has decided that tour golf, with the length that he hits it, he needs a little more firepower to be able to be competitive, you know, on these big golf courses. So he goes, you know, driver 3-wood TaylorMade M2, 2017 model, 15 degrees, Tensei blue. Then he goes into a 5-wood, which is a 913 FD.
So two cycles ago?
2 cycles ago, 2013 head. The FD was the deep-faced one. Yep, and he uses actually an old shaft that he used to use in all of his woods, which was made by UST. It was the VTS, which is the variable torque system.
And what is
so
that?
They had so they used to have 3 colors in the VTS. They had the black, the silver, and the red. So depending on kind of torque. So torque being a big part of what you feel. Right. So torque will influence, you know, what you feel and kind of how you load the club and the feedback it gives you. So depending on, you know, load, speed, preference for all that sort of stuff, you may rather something that's higher torque, you know, to feel the club load a little more. You may feel, you know, different types of, you know, feels from the shaft.
Because torque to me was always, I think, the number that people use to assess how stable a shaft would be. So it used to be like if your shaft torque rating was like 4 point something, that was like a really high torque shaft.
You used to think that was high.
I've noticed that they seem, you know, a lot of the stiffer profile shafts that are considered stiffer profile, the torque numbers seem to be higher than they used to be. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, something like your shaft, the Mitsubishi Kurokage XT. So the torque rating is a little bit higher than that, which is where it retains its feel, even though it plays super stable by actual, you know, profile. So you know, you can kind of cheat the feel of the player a little bit. So if you know, talking about transitional players, if I'm working with a young junior and I go, okay, I don't really want little Jimmy to feel like he's playing a really stiff shaft, I'll go higher in torque, but I'll give him a slightly stiffer profile, you know, that type of thing. So, you know, that's one way you can manipulate the player's feel.
But a high torque shaft, it's not going to make you spray it all over the place.
Far from.
So that's a bit of a myth that people think, oh, high torque means I'm kind of not as consistent with it.
I've read things over the years that people think because it's higher torque, so easier to twist, basically, right? So
is that what it means, though?
Resistance to twisting.
It is, okay.
Yeah, so it's the torsional twist. So basically, if you hit, now I've heard people say if you hit it in the toe, you know, that high torque shaft will twist more than a low torque shaft.
Right.
The impact interval doesn't last long enough for that to happen.
Okay.
Impact lasts for 4/10,000ths of a second. The ball is off the club face by the time that shaft has even had a chance to react to strike zone. So that's nothing to do, it has absolutely zero effect. Now, it will deliver the after effect of it. So once that impact travels up the shaft and into the hands, you may get the feedback that it's twisted, but the ball's long gone by that point. It's not affected the result. Exactly.
Interesting.
So, sorry to get a little bit.
No, that's great. Well, I think that's honestly, those type of things are, I think, just the kind of stuff that we've been seeing in questions.
Right.
That one was a question that I had, to be honest with you, because when we were answering a few comments just about, you know, what shafts would be recommended for someone based on not a lot of data. Just looking at the charts, it seemed to me that I saw a lot of torque ratings 4.0 and higher, and to me, I thought that was just like crazy high, but obviously it's gone the other way a bit.
Exactly. And different players. I mean, I remember, you know, working with some of the Scandinavian players, and they all had a preference for super low torque.
Interesting.
So at the time, you know, there was shafts like Graphite Blue out was 2.8 degrees of torque. Aldila Prototype, which was a tour shaft. Remember the Prototype, the kind of gold one? So it was out at the same time as the Aldila NV and NVS. The Prototype was a tour product that was really ultra super stiff for the real loaders. Angel Cabrera used it for a long time in a Ping, you know, Ping Raptor driver. Used it very well, but you know, those types of shafts would be used to really for the guys who just didn't want to feel the shaft. They were just their hard hitters, that type of thing.
Cool.
So hybrid, so 2 hybrids in Webb's bag. He uses 2 different ones, both by Titleist. So he uses a 913 HD 20 degree.
So again, an old model.
Older model, yep. He uses a Graphite Design DI.
That's the one we just showed?
Exactly, the 105 in that one. So 20 degrees. So that's kind of his sort of, you know, 3-iron, probably 2-iron, you know, for him. That's kind of his 2-iron in the bag, that type of thing. He's got the 915, the next edition, the next model. He's got that with an X100. So that one matches in more with his iron shaft because that's what he plays in his 718 MBs.
So he's playing that more like that's like a 4 or 5 iron for him.
Yeah, he's trying to
3 or 4 iron. I should say.
That would be his 3-stroke 4 iron. He plays it at 23.5 degrees.
It's quite a lot of loft for a hybrid.
Yeah. So I mean, if he's playing fairly traditional lofts, I would imagine he's going his progression is something like, his hybrid at 23.5. 5 iron around 20, probably 25.5, 6 iron around maybe 29, 30, somewhere around there, and progression in 4 degree increments from there.
Okay. Yeah.
So so I mean, just the one way in which he's probably not going to be able to flight a 4 iron. I mean, he's a world class player. We're not knocking the guy's striking by any means, but he's going to be able to get a little bit more out of a hybrid. Flight it in a window.
Height wise,
probably a little easier.
Landed softer.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly. He's probably needing that into some of the longer par 4s, par 3s, and in second shots into some of these big par 4s.
Some of these par 3s are 230, and if you don't hit a great drive off the tee, you might have 240 into a par 4.
That's it, exactly. So, 718 blades. He's got the newest model from Titleist in the blades, 5 to pitch and wedge, gorgeous looking.
Yeah, they're
blade.
really nice. Haven't changed a ton over the years, but they kind of do a nice little refresh on them.
I think they've done a lovely job this year. Our boy in here, Cam, he loves them. He's a big Titleist blade boy. Big shout out to Cam. He loves them. So X100s in those, so 130 grams. Is what shaft he's using in those? I would imagine that's again just what he's used for a long time.
Probably just he's used it for 20 years kind of thing.
That's it. Yep, exactly. Wedge wise, he's got just 2 wedges in the bag.
Yep.
He's got
so they're SM7s.
SM7. He's got the 5414 F grind, which is not so much a grind, but an F, the F sole, because there's no grind on it.
This is actually an F right here. It's not a 54. So the F, just so people know, it's in the lower lofts only. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And it's more of a full sole, no grind off the heels.
That's how I can describe it to people. F is the full sole. M grind I describe to people whether it's the multifunctional sole, that type of thing.
You're not hitting half shots with this, open face shots. You pretty much just full swings.
Yeah, you're not playing open face shots. Yeah,
Gotcha.
The leading edge would come off. You're playing that pretty square. Yeah,
cool.
Exactly. So he uses the 6006, which is a fairly low bounce, but he uses it in the wide sole K grind.
Okay.
So that's the new wide sole version. So they used to do the K grind in a higher bounce. So now they do it in a low bounce, which the guys really like. So the wide sole's really good in bunkers and that type of thing. So I saw he's had a little grind work done probably by Aaron or Bob Vokey. So he's a little trail edge grind done. So when he opens it a little bit, he still doesn't get that leading edge popping up too much.
So just to bring the leading edge lower.
Just a little trail edge relief. Whether it's through the turf, he doesn't like that back edge of the sort of sole to sort of bounce off the turf if it gets a little firmer. Some
any of those big sole wedges, I've noticed just looking at them, when you open the face, they do really sit up. They do. So I can see why he would want it. I mean, it's kind of weird that he picked the widest sole one and then asked to have it ground.
Bounce,
but I mean, that's one of these things.
Must just be something to do with, I would imagine it's more to do with his bunker play and how he loves that in the bunkers, loves the stability of the wide sole in there. So his other club, his last club in the bag is the Odyssey, the Cruiser.
Right.
The Odyssey Cruiser
Which was working quite nicely?
Yeah, it was working really well. I mean, he was always a good putter when he was an anchor putter. He was very, very good, and obviously once that came in, that's at the time where his game really fell off, like we talked about.
As soon as that anchor band was in, he kind of disappeared.
I know.
Almost entirely.
Well, the funny story with it is his caddy Paul Tesori actually talked him into changing before the ban kicked in. So the ban was going to kick in a year after when he actually changed. So they looked at it statistically and analysed it and went, okay, so if you change and you putt okay, based on all your stats, you'll be fine. Your game will be in good shape. He changed, and then I think he changed and went to 144th in strokes gained putting when he went to the conventional stroke. So his caddy thought, let's just take the plunge and
grind it out for a bit.
Yeah, that's it. You've got your status. You've had winning status for years. You'll have time to get used to it. So his caddy blames himself. His caddy said he thinks he cost him about $5 million in earnings.
I mean, I can see why he feels guilt about that, but it's coming, and I think Adam Scott tried to get a little bit ahead of it too. If it were me and I knew that was coming, I probably would do the same thing. I don't think anyone would ever fault. I mean, I get the money thing it's not nothing.
Sure. But
it's not like he's a journeyman pro just scraping a living. Like the guy's, he had money in the bank. But instead of waiting till you absolutely must change and feeling the pressure of that, I think to me that would be the right decision. But obviously it did cost him a solid season of decent play.
Of good play. But I think the ripple effect of that for him has been the confidence that he lost following that. So, he's kind of been in the wilderness, and he was one of those guys you go, will he ever make it back? And, and he was playing in, Ryder Cup teams and all that sort of stuff. And now he's very much back in that fold. He's back winning again and winning big events again. That's the platform he should be. He's a talented lad.
Be interesting to see if Adam Scott can find that kind of, breakthrough with the putter, because he's kind of also been sort of.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Did he win anything after he switched out of the anchor? I'm trying to remember.
He won. He did. He won down in Doral. Remember, he won the WG.
That's right.
He won. I think he may have won twice. Or finished first and second. He won at Honda, and then he may have won at Doral or finished second at Doral or something at the Blue Monster.
Definitely hasn't stuck with that kind of confidence, though.
No.
It'd be interesting to see if he can find. Maybe he should go see Tim Clark and get a putting lesson and see what he can find.
Yeah. So ball, he uses the Pro V1, he uses the softer cover.
Yep.
Slightly lower launch and softer, higher spinning ball. He uses a Tour Velvet 58 round grip, which is
just like your absolute standard thing.
Standard stuff. I was looking at some stuff the other day. I mean, the amount of guys out on tour who still play that grip. It's known as the stock grip. If you like,
they can never ever stop making that grip. No matter what.
No, and they've added now the Align to the.
Do you see guys using that?
Yeah. We have a bunch of our customers are requesting that right now. So
I ordered those as well. It feels nice.
Yeah, the line around the back, just a little feedback, rather than the old rib, the reminder.
Remember you were saying,
So it's just a kind of modern take on that, a little bit of a design change, but it gives your hands a little feel of where home is. And
looks good. I think it's a nice looking grip.
I think it's a nice looking grip as well. I think it's really good. So
that's the deal with him.
That is the deal with Webb Simpson. So delighted for him, and it was almost a little bit, with 9 holes to go, he just bogeyed to get to 18 under, and there was a couple of guys charging to 14. You go, okay, if he makes a couple of bogeys, that's not an easy stretch.
It was in the maybe category for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of bogeys and a couple of birdies, and then you can make a 4-shot swing pretty quickly.
He doubled 17 the day before.
That's right.
You could easily do that again.
You could. So it was a good event. I mean, the story, I guess the debate always just carries on. The rumble's on about, does the Players become a 5th major? Not for me.
I'll say no to that as well.
Not for me.
I like that it's probably the closest thing to it.
Yeah,
because the Ladies Tour has 5 majors now.
Yeah.
Why? Why do that?
There's 4 majors.
Just
not 5.
Because to me it's stupid, because all these historical players, I mean, I know if you go too far back, then yes, they did add tournaments, but it seems silly to take records where Jack Nicklaus has this many majors with that many tournaments to play in. If you add one, I don't know, the whole record thing just becomes a bit of an issue. But
right, let's have a look at some questions.
Let's
maybe scroll back up and see if we've missed much over the last little while.
Eric, yes, we are taking questions.
We are. Guys, fire away. The season started, and if you guys are seeing anything funky with your equipment, in the early part of the season,
true.
Shoot us some questions, and we'll try and troubleshoot and navigate our way through that with you.
So let's look at these first.
Okay.
Oban CT 115, is that an iron shaft?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Steel?
It is.
So on Modus 3 120, both X-Flex.
And 793. Some thoughts on a couple of shafts.
Okay, so Eric, probably you haven't made a decision yet. I guess that's what you're getting at there.
Just trying to.
I know you don't carry Oban.
We don't carry. No. I mean, there's some people are pretty high on it.
Yeah.
Made by Shimada, that particular shaft. I mean, it's definitely getting a little bit of traction out there. It's a club builder shaft. It's something that you can build, build to frequency and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, we'll look at it probably in the future. I mean, I'm super comfortable with our matrix right now where we are. I mean,
I've actually answered a bunch of questions lately with people saying questions like this, which are totally fair. How come you didn't use this shaft in the video? How come you don't test this one? I mean, there's 300 and what shafts behind you?
352.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yep.
So at what point do you just say it's enough already? You know what I mean? And then you have a fitting in. Are you going to try 7 iron shafts? No, it's crazy, right?
You better believe if there comes a time where someone walks through this door and I don't have the right tool to help their swing.
Exactly.
That I'm going to probably go looking for solutions.
That's what I would say as well. So you are more than confident that you have everything you need. And if you don't, then you'll carry a new.
From a tolerance standpoint, from a performance standpoint, I really feel comfortable. And we test new shafts all the time. We have companies reach out to us and want to send us shafts and maybe prototypes and that sort of stuff. And we'll test it, and if we find it's better than what we've got, we'll then look at it and bring it in.
Cool. And you're mixing up your matrix kind of twice a season?
Yeah, we're actually just about to add 80 new shafts to the wall.
Where are those going?
I know. We just kind of, we reevaluated our needs and we looked at, what our product mix was on the wall, and we found that we could probably change things a little bit, and we wanted some more options in fairway and hybrid because so many of our customers are going, 3 and 5 wood. So maybe we felt like we didn't have as many shafts that were best suited to 5 woods. We thought we had some quite good, stronger 3 wood shafts, maybe not so many, slightly softer 5 wood
You're
shafts.
finding that that's a fairly big adjustment between the two.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Especially if a 3 wood is more used for off the tee and the 5 wood is off the fairway.
Exactly. Let's touch on this one really quick.
Yep.
We are going to make a video on this, wedge shaft weight compared to irons. So generally speaking, we've had this conversation. So we've seen a lot of tour players that go a little bit softer in the wedges. So for example, if you're an X100 player, they'll play S400s.
S400, go heavier but softer, yep.
So is the heavier but softer the general recommendation, or is it just a little bit softer? Or do you just tell the majority of golfers that the iron shaft will work well in your wedges?
Generally speaking, we will recommend heavier and softer.
Heavier and softer.
Yep.
Okay.
So primarily the reason for heavier and softer is, we're going up and down the grip. So we're changing the length of the club. So the heavier maintains the feel of the club while we're going shorter. So when we grip down, and then obviously the softer, because we don't have that shaft in the same amount of load that we do when we hit a full-blooded 6-iron from 195 yards.
Yeah, true.
Or 160 yards, whatever the golfer may hit it. So the requirement of the shaft and the way it needs to perform, that same shaft in a lob wedge is in a 6-iron will feel pretty dead, and it won't feel very good. It won't give you feedback.
I can definitely agree with that one.
Okay.
Thoughts on how Tiger is warming up with his new set of
really
irons?
good, Kyle. He was good. His strokes gained, I was keeping an eye on his strokes gained through the week with the irons, and he was hitting some really good iron shots. And I think, 72, 71, 63, 69 on the weekend?
Yes, 69.
69 on Sunday. He was hitting some really good iron shots. Just too bad that he bogeyed 14, and then that shot in 17, too bad it fell short. It was dead on line.
It was?
Absolutely, he was posing after it.
I know.
It was dead on line. He just kind of, I don't know if it was a touch of wind or just a slight misjudgment on the club or how hard to hit it, but he was close. That was an awfully good performance. 6 under through 12 on the last round.
It was his best 9 holes ever at that tournament. It was his best score ever at that tournament. I think the Saturday round
on the
was.
Saturday, 30.
Hard to say that he didn't take a lot of positives away from it. His driver was way better too.
He said he felt like he didn't miss a shot on the Sunday,
which is wild.
He said he didn't miss a shot.
It's a crazy thing for him to say.
I know. Well, he feels as if he's getting close, which is good for golf.
Totally. The G-Max driver, the tour shaft, so we're talking about ping.
Yep.
Says it produces less spin for more control. So probably talking about what's listed on their website.
That's the G-Max driver tour.
So the tour shaft is the stiffer profile. It would generally be a little less spin.
Just the nature of just deflects a little less. Right. So if we just go back to shafts don't spin the ball.
They don't affect the spin.
They affect dynamic loft that can affect spin. So that
sentence is probably a bit of a
tour,
mashup there. It's more like, yes, it may be a bit less spin and it's stiffer, so you should have a bit more control.
I mean, and it also, to be honest, like we've always said, like, a quote unquote, tip stiff shaft in some person's hands will produce higher spin.
Yep.
So it just depends what that player does with that particular shaft. But I really, really like that Ping Tour shaft. So this year they do the Alta, which is the kind of bronze colored one. Really nice kind of finish. That's the stock one, counterbalanced, and then they do the Ping Tour, which is much more tip stiff and, for the stronger guys who are trying to kind of flight it down a little bit. Good shaft.
Yeah, good stuff. Speaking of shafts, Valix Rome 688.
Mm-hmm. We have one. Yep.
How common are those? Like, are you one of the few that would carry Valix?
Yeah, probably one of the few. So Valix, definitely one of our favorite companies in here. The Rome is one of my favorite shafts for guys with a little bit of speed, and maybe I'm trying to kind of eliminate the left side of the course for a right-handed player who's got some speed.
I tried it in a 3-wood.
Yeah,
it was nice.
That's right. Yeah, you tried
really
the 788, the lowrider, which is the really tip stiff one.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, no, Valix make good stuff. JC Beeson, who's owner of the company, he worked at Fujikura. He developed the Matrix Ozic line when he worked at Matrix. So. Really, really smart guy. Great, love chatting with him about shafts and stuff. And he's a relationship with Sonico, the tennis company. So he, on material content, he's someone I go to chat a little bit about certain material kind of options when it comes to making shafts.
Interesting. Yep. I'm going to very quickly answer this question.
Just
talking about the quality of Ping Tour driver shafts, you've had nothing but good things to say about them.
Nothing but good things.
And those are the only stock manufacturer shafts that you'll kind of purposely carry in the shop, is that right?
We have Callaway and TaylorMade as well.
We
do. We have some if someone really wants to try them and see how it compares.
But in terms of a company that makes their own shafts?
Well, so they design the shaft, then they outsource the manufacturing.
Gotcha.
So they'll design it based on what the head's doing. So the recent trend has been to make the head weights a bit heavier and then make the shaft counterbalanced. In order to then, get a little bit more clubhead speed but ball speed with it at the same time.
Gotcha. A 2017 M1 with hazardous yellow, 63. It's ballooning and going super high. So would a heavier shaft bring down my ball flight?
Jason, it could do. I would do a couple of things to your M1. I'd look at loft first and foremost. I'd try and get your loft down a little bit. I'd maybe bump the shaft stiffness a touch. I'd maybe go, in terms of profile, maybe go to something more like the black. Go to a 75 grams, 6.5 hazardous black. Okay. If you're into that, if you like that sort of shaft, and maybe then just nudge one down in the loft, and that should take care of the excess spin.
Gotcha. I mean, that kind of goes back to our many videos we've done where we're noticing that the loft of the head and the design of the head is making way more difference than the shaft.
Do you know, actually, I'm really noticing this year, that M3 head, when you move the weights forward and back in that M3 head, it makes an enormous difference.
Does it ever? Because you put it up to the front for me a few times, and then I can't get the thing in the air.
I had a customer today that weight back on the 9.5 was going higher than weight forward in the 10.5.
That's crazy.
It was interesting, yeah.
I mean, people always ask, do the weights matter? That's a driver that the weights clearly matter.
They do.
Let's do a couple more. Have you tried the new AVX?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had customers bring it in, and they've wanted to test it during the fit, and we've been keen to see how it performs. Feels a little hard for me, to be honest.
Feels hard.
Feels for me it does. Yeah, I don't really like the feel of it.
Which is expected. I mean, so it's supposed to be a lower spinning ball?
It's a lower spinning ball, but at a softer compression.
Right.
So I didn't love the feel of it.
You're probably not the target of that. Is that fair to say?
That's right. And I'll counter that by saying I played with someone on Monday at Weston Golf Club who loved it. Who absolutely he bought them down in Florida and absolutely loved it, and he played well with it. So
again, get a ball fitting.
Yeah, ball fits, whatever you like. The part that kind of, I don't like the look of the golf ball because the dimples are so shallow. Even just looking at the golf ball, to me the dimple pattern doesn't look right to me.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so used to a conventional dimple pattern. The dimple pattern doesn't look right to me.
Gotcha. Let's do one more because we got to film some videos as usual. Got some new irons this year, 2 degrees upright to help fight a slice. I made great progress with lessons and I'm on a better plane now. He's got a bit of a 2-way miss going, so should he consider putting them back to standard?
William, definitely, whatever you need to do to eliminate the 2-way miss, do that. So first and foremost, look at your delivery tendencies. Are you someone who tends to swing the club from the inside with a fairly, conventional angle of attack? If you are, then probably we can encourage the club at that point to draw.
Gotcha.
Right, because if we're swinging it from in to out, we can probably get it to draw. Okay. If you come from the outside, we probably want to encourage it to fade a little bit, just in the hope of being a bit more consistent with it. There's nothing worse. I mean, it's the curse of the neutral golf swing.
Right.
When you start swinging dead down the line.
I've struggled with that myself.
Yeah, that's it. When your path gets super neutral, and you flush a good one straight, well, you're as likely to hit it left as you are right. So, I always liked the players to have intent when they hit a shot. What are you going to do with it? Is it draw or is it fade? Don't just stand up there and hit shots, but try to hit it with a little bit of shape one way or the other. I think that's very beneficial. The old pros used to talk a lot about that. You're better hitting, into 40 yards rather than, to hitting it down the middle and hitting into 20 yards either side.
I know that game. Let's wrap it up.
Sure.
It was good. Guys, thanks for asking so many questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them, but we'll probably we haven't done kind of a dedicated live Q&A in a little while.
We need to do that.
We should do that next week.
Yeah.
Unless Tiger wins a tournament. No, he's not playing next week.
When is he playing again?
I have no idea. It's Byron Nelson next week. He never plays that one.
No,
but
for sure.
Yeah, so let's make our next one we'll pop on for an hour and a half and we'll just rip through questions because this is great. We really do appreciate you guys doing this.
And leave save them for next week. We'll get them live and we'll answer as many as we can. Or you can leave them below and.
Yeah, so the chat transcript doesn't really get saved.
Oh, okay.
It does to some degree, but for our purposes, if we did miss one of your questions, guys, just when this video gets published in about an hour or two, just repeat the question in the comments and we'll definitely get to them or earmark them for next week.
Tons and tons of questions, which is always really, really appreciated. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in and we'll see you again soon.